your favourite Atomic Blonde here with my Picard Season 3 Episode 7 review. So a bit of a mixed bag, this one. Overall, I liked it. It was good. I enjoyed it. It's definitely not my favourite out of the 7 we've seen so far. There's quite a lot of exposition in this one, which I get. We've only got 10 episodes to tell the story. But some really good bits in this episode. Some a little bit, but as I said, overall good. Could definitely watch the episode again. It's not like one and done. So let's get into it. So this episode, we find the Titan in a Starfleet scrapyard of destroyed ships and broken up things I guess they can't mend, hiding. And it starts off with Seven having a conversation with Tuvok, obviously from Voyager. And this is a lovely scene. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was quite a good opening. Seven is talking to him, and as they're talking, the crew are trying to analyze what's going on, and we sort of see something about his voice analysis, and it's inconclusive. So obviously they're trying to work out whether he's a changeling or not. And there's a conversation. They talk about the game that they used to play on Voyager together. And then Seven goes on to suggest they meet up, and they meet on a certain planet, which he agrees to. And then straight away, Seven's like, "You're not him. Because of something that happened on this planet, Vulcans would never go there. You'd never agree to that." And then the changeling just sort of smirks and laughs, which obviously a Vulcan wouldn't do. They sort of then you get like Picard step up and it's like, "Well, where's Riker?" And the changeling shimmers into like a dead version of Riker, effectively. It's just goading them. They know they're trying to trace them, so they basically have to cut communications. And then Geordi says to Picard, "Look, we can't keep doing this." So that suggests obviously they're trying to get hold of anybody they think they can remotely trust in Starfleet, and every single one's a changeling. And Picard just says, "Yeah, that's it. We're on our own. There is no help coming." We go to like Crusher, Picard, and Geordi in this sort of little ready room around the desk, discussing. And Beverly says that I've got a bit of a moral dilemma, and we need to find a weapon, or at least at a minimum a way to identify the changelings, so we, at least we know who is and who isn't. And Geordi says, "Well, what's the dilemma about that?" She says, "Well, the only way that we can do that is through some sort of biological means." And then we are getting in very dangerous territory. And Picard brings up obviously the virus that was used in Dominion War that we found out in the last episodes. And they're like, "Yeah, this is not good." But Picard is very pragmatic and says, "Well, let's see if we can find anything first. And if we find something, then that we can use, then let's have the debate. But right now, there's nothing really to debate." So then they start discussing as to why the Shrek would have taken Picard's real dead body from Daystrom, and they're speculating that the reason that they've got Picard and they need Jack is that maybe in some way they can then, using the DNA, that they can create some sort of perfect copy of Picard that they can use on obviously Frontier Day. And again, they sort of like, "Look, we're running out of time. Apparently it's only a few hours till Frontier Day now." So they're kind of speculating that if they can get DNA from Jean-Luc, or the DNA is degraded somehow, that they can then take that from Jack or his blood and they're like, that's their best guess as to why they've taken Jean-Luc and why they're after Jack. We then go to Picard and Geordi have gone to see where we're down to Data, or this Data hybrid that's been built, and trying to sort of assess what's going on and how can they help in any way. What's confirmed is what we already kind of knew, that he's got these different personalities, and the main two dominant ones are Data and Law, and they're sort of fighting for sort of supremacy. But again, as they stated, like, the whole point is these personalities, the viewers, they all integrate, and you basically just become more human. That, you know, you've got a good side, a bad side, a logical and illogical side, but they're all still fighting. They're not integrating. They switch Data on, but cognitive functions only. And Data comes to the forefront and says, "Captain, where am I? We're not on the Enterprise." And Picard goes on to say that, "Oh, that was a long time ago, Data." And then you kind of see him twitch, and then Law kicks in, and he's just like, "Yeah, I can see that. You know, you're sort of crusty old man. You know, you're not wearing well," kind of thing. And we kind of sort of then the personalities kind of click back and forwards, and Picard asks Data to sort of speculate why they would have taken him, and he starts analysing it, and what he says is that there's a anomalous form in Jean-Luc's body, his real dead body. And Jean-Luc's like, "Well, what does that mean? What is it?" And he says that that the diagnosis of the Eremodic syndrome might have been incorrect, and we need to do further. And he tries to, you know, finish the sentence, and then Law kicks in, and then sort of Data kicks back in, and Data like, "Help me," and it's just too much, because obviously both Geordi and Picard watched Data die twice, and Picard was just like, "Switch him off. I can't help," you know. So really interesting. Like, so what is this anomaly? Is it something to do with when Picard was taken over by the Borg? Has he got like some sort of nanites in him or something like that? Don't know. But obviously this could also explain why Jack's different and may not just be down to the syndrome. Guess we're going to find out. We then cut to Jack and Sydney in a turbo lift, and Jack's sort of flirting with her. After obviously last week's episode, there's a bit of chemistry there, and he's sort of, a bit forward though. I thought, like, what's your quarters like? It's like, blimey, just put it out there, Jack. But anyway, she's like, "Well, I'm just an ensign, so they're quite small," and this, that, and the thing. And then we then hear sort of Sydney saying, like, is he flirting with me? And again, it's like, woof, that's a bit. And then we realise that it's Jack can hear Sydney's thoughts. And again, she's a bit like, "Well, you be a bit more subtle first, you know." And he like, "Touch my hand" or something, and he hears that. And then he touches her hand, and then she gets off the lift, and she's like, "Well, why did you do that?" Because obviously it freaks her a bit that she sort of thought it, and then Jack's done it. And then this kind of then freaks Jack out a bit, that he can hear Sydney's thoughts. On the bridge, they get like a communication come through. And Seven realizes really quickly that a code's being, because they've been sort of ignoring them, obviously, because it's like Starfleet is sort of pinging, trying to find them. And initially, Shaw's just like, just ignore it. But they realize it's a compromise code. It's a certain type of this sort of distress code that a captain can use to get a message back to their ship that they're in distress or something's happened. They then realize that that's coming from the Shrike, so they're like, they've got Riker. So now they've kind of got confirmation that the Shrike have Riker. Jack goes to speak after this sort of he's a bit freaked out in the turbo lift. He goes to speak to Jean-Luc, and he's sort of struggling twofold. He's sort of explains to Jean-Luc that, you know, this is all his fault. You know, he's obviously feeling really guilty. Like Riker was really good to him when he came on the ship. And like Riker wouldn't have been captured if Jack had just handed himself over. And he feels that, you know, he should sacrifice himself. They just get in touch with the Shrek and I'll hand myself over. I'm not worth saving, or my life's not worth as much as the people on the Titan, which Picard's having none of. Sort of saying, no, we've got to fight. We can't give up. And Jack's like, well, I don't normally, but you know, it needs to be a fair fight. You know, what on earth can we do? And he goes on to tell Picard that he's also hearing these voices. And Picard asks, well, what do the voices say? But Jack doesn't comment. But then they pick up on this point of, you know, having a fair fight, and you know, and Picard sort of goes, like, he's like got an idea, you know, that maybe, you know, somehow we can take the fight to them. So we then see the Titan and the Shrike ship, and the Shrike do a scan, and they're like, oh, the warp core's offline, it's just a dead duck. And when we see inside the ship, they've faked an attack. Obviously the Shrike scan for life signs, and they're like, we can't make it out, could be like radiation from where the warp core's damaged. But then one of the crew says it could also like be a trap. But prior to this, the Thadik chopped off a hand again, talking to the head, and the head's just like not interested. It's like, I don't care what you have to do, you need to get Jack, we're running out of time. So she's like quite desperate. So she ups a scan. They pick up a subspace transmission, which the Titan has faked to make it seem like they've been attacked by another Federation vessel. So she says, right, we're taking a party. We'll get the shuttle and we'll go to the Titan. No transporters. So again, that's been brought up about not transporting. Now, from the Starfleet point of view, when Ro was explaining it, obviously I took that, or I'm sure you did as well, that people were being killed or think there was transport accidents, so they could replace them with changelings, or just get rid of people who were obviously getting too close to the truth. But the fact that the Shrek don't want to use transporters either, is there a weakness there, do we think? I guess we'll find out. Better bloomin' find out. So anyway, they go on board. This is where it gets a little bit silly. So you basically have Jack and Sydney kind of leading the Shrek down various corridors, and then they relay back to the bridge, and they're able to bring down like shields and basically trap the Shrek in different parts of the ship. Then when it kind of gets to the last couple, doesn't go quite to plan, and they manage to bring down the shields, but then Jack and Sydney are trapped in their own pocket, but they're trapped in there. But otherwise the plan worked. They've got Thadik trapped in sickbay and her cronies on various points around the ship. We see then Geordie, who's still with Data and his other daughter, is it Alondra? Obviously they're sort of seeing this executed. He goes to then transport Jack and Sydney out of their little pocket, but he can't, and he's like, something's blocking them from transporting. Then they gradually start to lose, like the doors close on them, and they're gradually like losing control of the ship. And then we see sort of Data walk up to the door, sort of smart, well, basically it's Law. So Law is managed to sort of take control of Data, obviously has more than his cognitive functions, and is gradually starting to take over the ship. And then we go to in sickbay, and where Beverly, or they've captured Thadik, and Beverly starts talking to her, and she's just like really calm and whistling, and really nonplussed at all. You know, she's not concerned that she's not going to get out of this. And Beverly obviously questions her, asks her why they're after Jack, which she doesn't answer. And she goes on to explain, though, how she was created and how Starfleet tortured her. So on Daystrom Station, well, first of all, she explains about, you know, the virus, the atrocities that, because she talks about the atrocities that Starfleet have inflicted on her people, and how they didn't want humans or solids going anywhere near them because they destroy everything they touch. And Jean-Luc said, well, give me an example. And she's like, well, my world, my home. And they talk about the weapon, and Jean-Luc says, yeah, but we gave you the antidote, we gave you, you know, the cure. And she goes, oh, is that what your history books say? They didn't. Starfleet voted against giving us that. We had to go steal it. To which obviously Beverly and Jean-Luc are shocked, and surprise, surprise, Jean-Luc apologizes, but fair play. This is the time you should apologize. And obviously she goes on to explain how they obviously had to change the materials, and they were testing on them and basically trying to develop a weapon, a changeling that could hold its form, and then they'd have the perfect sort of espionage spy. And we see the scientists doing that, and that's basically Amanda Plummer's Thadic's face. So she's taken on the face of the person that tortured her, and also the whistling, the tune is which sounds like Three Blind Mice, is what the scientist was whistling while she's doing experiments on them. So we understand now why she's sort of radicalized and why she hates the Federation so much. I think the stupid thing is that, for me, that Jean-Luc and Beverly basically put all their cards on the table and say, right, we think you've taken Jean-Luc's body and you want Jack because you're trying to make the perfect version. We know about how you can replicate your own organs, and we know about Frontier Day and blah, blah, blah. So they're basically just gone, this is everything we know. Now, they don't know whether they're right or not. So by telling her everything, she, like, if they're wrong, she's like, they haven't got a bloody clue what's going on. So I don't know why they'd spill their guts like that. I mean, I guess you could kind of hint at stuff, but just to play it all out like, wow, we know everything. It's like, well, you don't, though, do you? You don't know what you don't know. So I thought that was a bit daft. And then where Law's taking over the ships, he then drops all the shields. So well, actually, just before that, Beverly and Jean-Luc have a conversation to say, look, she ain't going to tell us anything, and having her on the ship is a liability. You know, she's got no qualms about killing us, and we need to protect Jack. And Beverly kind of makes a comment about, I've kind of lost my compass, because, you know, she's taken the Hippocratic Oath to never take life and things like that. And Jean-Luc's a bit like, well, I'm kind of with you on this one. We've both lost our compass. So they get the phasers out. They go to kill her. But then the shields drop. She goes to like liquid form. And they shoot her multiple times, but she manages to get away through like some sort of port. So I don't know if when they're in liquid form, they're harder to kill than when they're in solid form, because what we've seen in previous episodes, like 1 or 2 shots and they're like disintegrated. But anyway, whatever. Maybe that'll be explained. I don't know. We then obviously go back to Jack and Sydney, where the shields have been dropped. Obviously, Jack's kind of holding his own against the Shrake, but still getting like slapped about. And obviously, Sydney's like tiny, so she's being flung everywhere. And all Geordie can do is watch this. He can see that this thing's going after his daughter, and he obviously goes up to Law. There's a door between them. Goes up to Law and basically speaking to Data. He's like, Data, I know you're in there. You know, I know you can hear me. And this was a great scene, actually. I really, really like this scene, because you never really got to see Geordie emote much. I mean, partly because he used to have his visor on, but he just wasn't given any sort of scripts where, you know, he was sort of massively emotionally invested, because I basically gave him no relationships or anything like that. So he's, you know, imploring Data to help him, because he's literally, you know, watching his potentially his daughter die, and there's nothing he can do. And he tells Data that, you know, he made him a better person, a better father, a better husband, and it absolutely broke him when Data died. But just remembering Data's memory and, you know, all these things, and he's just like, you know, but please, you've got to help me. And Law's just very like, yeah, he can't hear you, whatever. And Georgie goes over to the screen and sees the Shrake, you know, getting hold of Sydney, and he just yells at Data like to help him. And when we cut back to sort of Sydney and Jack is taking care of his changeling or Shriek. And then because Sydney says in her head, what do I do? And then she can hear Jack, and then they start mirroring each other, which again was, I can't make up my mind whether I liked it or I didn't like it. It felt a little bit silly, but at the same time, I thought it was a good way of sort of showing that obviously these guys have obviously got some chemistry. There's some sort of link, because every time Jack has one of these episodes, his eyes glow red. Now Sydney's eyes also glowed red when they were sort of linking up. So Jack's saying, you know, sort of mind to mind, like roll, and he rolls and she rolls, and they're sort of mirroring each other. So in one sense, this was good in that he's helping her get away from the Shrake and helping her overcome it, but in a kind of sensible way that someone as slight as her would be able to take out this thing that's like 300 pounds. It was done in quite a sensible, believable way. But the whole him, rather than him just sort of telling her what to do, him sort of actually, they're mirroring each other's actions. I'm not too sure, but then it might just be a way of showing that whatever's going on with Jack is growing. You know, he's I don't want to say powers per se, but he's, you know, maybe some sort of psychic abilities are growing. So, you know, we'll see how it plays out. Jury's out on that one. But Data is able to take back control from Law. When like Geordie just like screams at him and he's crying, you know, like, help me, my daughter's gonna die. And he's like, no, Geordie, I'm here. I'll see what I can do, kind of thing. And Sydney and Jack obviously managed to get away. We then sort of see Thadik meet up with one of the Shrake, and they're heading in after Jack. They're trying to, Beverly and Picard look up the project that Thadik talked about from Daystrom, and they find out a certain chemicals, something was used on them, and that enables them then to be able to track them. And they message Shaw and say, right, they're on deck 9. You need to stop them from getting to the bridge lift. We have to protect the bridge at all costs. And Shaw's like, right, I'm on it. Takes 2 people with him. Unfortunately, that doesn't go very well. And Shaw has the crap beaten out of him, basically. And the changelings, or Thadik and the Shrake managed to get onto the bridge and take control of the bridge. A bit easily, I thought, but, you know, anyway. And then, so basically Thadik's just like gloating and saying, well, this was always inevitable. We kind of went the long way round, but, you know, if you just handed Jack over in the first place, and now she does an announcement to the ship, and that she's now captain of the USS Titan, and says, like, Jack, like, can you hear me? You know, and you know, come to the bridge to find out who you really are. And then it ends. So not as action-packed as we've had. Say a lot of sort of talking, exposition, I think, but to help try and move the story along. So say some bits, some jury's out on, but the bit with like Seven and Tuvok and Geordie and Data and his daughters, I thought was fantastic. I really enjoyed that. And so it was great seeing that from LeVar Burton. I mean, who knew he could act like that? you know. but yeah. Overall, I say it's still an enjoyable episode. Just not. I think just following up from such a good episode last week is a little bit flat. But I get it, you know, and I'd rather have episodes like this that still all make sense. It all still sort of hangs together, but is actually moving the story forward. You know, there's quite a few shows on TV, and I think Mando season 3 is a good example of this right now. You watch it and go, and like nothing's happened, nothing's moved forward. They're like still in the same place they were at the start of the episode. So yeah, so again, a few things dropped in. So we've got that the Shrek don't use transporters or don't want to use transporters. We now know that Beverly's just they found something that they can use to identify who's a changeling if they get the opportunity to use it, because you know they've taken over the ship. There's some sort of anomaly in Jean-Luc's original human body, and what is that? And whatever that is, has that been passed on to Jack? And is that why the changelings want Jack, for the thing that's in him genetically or something? Not so much anything to do with blood or DNA per se. Again, is that something to do with the Borg? Who knows? Terry Vitalis, obviously. What else? And yeah, it looks like most of senior Starfleet or anybody that can help them has already been compromised, been taken over. And that does throw up the question, like, are they dead? Is Tuvok dead? Or are they holding Starfleet people somewhere for information? Don't know. Not really clear on that. But let's hope he's alive, right? After getting back from the Delta Quadrant early to cure his Vulcan dementia, to then be taken out by a changeling. Not cool, dude. Not cool. So yeah, interesting episode. Not my fave, but still very much looking forward to next week. Only 3 episodes to go. I can't believe it. I kind of heard that next week's is a similar sort of vein, but then leads into 2 absolute bangers of an episode, and it lands the ending. So I'm a little bit, I mean, you need these episodes, as I said, to drive things forward, but I think we've just been spoiled the last couple of weeks with just 2 really, well, I've loved all of them, but certainly episode 5 and 6 were just fantastic. So yeah, more things being dropped in, more questions than answers. As always, what is Jack? What's in Jack? What's in Picard? Cannot wait to find out. Let's really hope as well that they release this season on 4K. It will be the first. I recently bought Star Trek the motion picture in 4K, the director's cut, lovely version. But yeah, I mean, this will be the first sort of Star Trek thing I've bought in, I don't know, a long time. So, but yeah, I'm already thinking about buying the DVD or the 4K. The series hasn't even finished yet. And holy hell, the announcement of Starfleet Academy, WTF. I'm not going to go into it now. I will do that on a separate video. But right now, it looks like Paramount are trying to steal WB's King of Stupid crown. I mean, Hollywood is just renowned for poor decisions and being stupid. But to have such a show like this, where it's now the #1 show on Paramount Plus, people are tweeting about it, people are excited about it, people are like, give us Star Trek Legacy. This is an absolute no-brainer. And what do they give us? Starfleet Academy, which sounds like it's going to be some sort of high school drama, CW, feelings in corridors, and I'm sure they'll do the outcrying rate of Star Trek Discovery. I think everybody's just sitting with their head in their hands right now going, what? But hey, you know, Kurtzman was already extended to 2026. That was back in 2021. That's nothing new. We knew we had his crap coming out till 2026. And unfortunately, I just don't think Paramount are financially in a position to buy him out of that contract in any way. Unless, you know, unless they put something in the contract that ratings go below a certain amount, which it doesn't look like they did. I don't think they can hoof him out of that contract. So, but let's hope, let's fingers crossed that somebody at the top of the tree at Paramount goes, hey, this is really popular. Hey, we're making money on the DVD 4K sales. Hey, people want to buy action figures from this. People want to buy the Titan. Maybe we should make more of this. What do you think? Can but hope. But anyway, let me know what you think about this week's episode. Where do you think this is going? What is Jack? What's in Picard? Leave me a comment. Would love to engage and chit chat on that. And maybe you hate Picard, and that's cool, but let me know why you hate it. What is it that's not really pushing your buttons? Each to their own, but love to know, love to have a chat, love to know your reasons. So as always, if you like what you're seeing, please share, please subscribe, and I'll be back soon, hopefully with something this weekend. I'm not sure if I can do a live stream yet or not, but there'll definitely be something dropping because I talk more about Starfleet Academy and Rando and all the other stuff dropping on all our streaming channels. So you have a great week. I will be back soon. I'll definitely be back next week with episode 8. Can't believe it. Have a good one. Take care. Bye-bye.